The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, available on all platforms and YouTube. He's the Apex Podcaster. He's the wise owl of professional wrestling. He smells better than Dude Love with Sex Panther on. He's the king of fantasy booking. He is your favorite podcaster's favorite podcast. He is Omega Luke, and you're listening to the Omega Luke Wrestling Podcast.
How are you doing, guys? My name is indeed Omega Luke, the wise owl of professional wrestling. And all the rumours that have been going around is true. I do indeed smell better than Dude Love with Sex Panther on. But enough of talking about me. I welcomed a guest today. And actually, I'm going to go out and say it right now. Probably my new favourite guest that I've ever had on the podcast. Shazza Mckenzie was an absolute darling to speak to. Hilariously funny. And from what was supposed to be just a 25-minute chat, because it was very late in Australia where she was recording, turned into an hour of great conversation about her and her career. You will fall in love with Shazza from this interview, I promise you that. And if you don't already, you'll want to follow her journey from now on like I do too. And of course, if you already have followed her journey, you'd know that she has indeed appeared on NXT TV a couple of times, both on the TV tapings, like I said, against Emma in 2015, who is actually her good friend, and Kairi Sane in the summer last year in 2018. So before I bring you this interview, just to let you know what's coming up, tomorrow on the YouTube channel, it's back indeed. Hashtag Fantasy Booking Faction. Long-awaited return is back, and this time I'm recording it just a spotlight section for the YouTube channel, so it'll be its own episode on the YouTube, so you can see me pick my favourites on there. So go check that out and see if your hashtag Fantasy Booking Faction made the spotlight, and watch out for my tweets in the future to be a part of them going forward. And on Friday, my video with the lovely Mckenzie from Moscow, Russia will release, where we answered your Would You Rather questions, as well as Never Have I Ever questions on Mckenzie's channel, which is honestly a lot of fun to watch and really interesting, I think, to see the comparison of answers between male and female wrestling fans for these answers. I thought it was the thing that I picked up the most on while recording that. But she is an incredible content creator, and for the first time working together, I think that was very entertaining, so don't miss that. As for next Monday, the plan is on the podcast to invite my good friends Josh and Stu from the Josh and Stu Wrestling Podcast onto the podcast to review the whole of the Fantasy Booking League, which indeed they were a part of course, and that is in preparation because in 2 Mondays' time, the winner of the Fantasy Booking League, Royally Rumble, my first ever champions, will be defending their championship for the first time, and that is against the Rock Cry guy Nev, who is unbeaten in fantasy booking matches. So I can't wait to see how that goes. 2 unbeaten guys going one-on-one. But that's all the things I believe I need to tell you about. So without further ado, please enjoy my amazing interview with the hardcore girl, Shazza Mckenzie.
What's up, IMLP, and you are listening to Wrestling Luke Omega Podcast. Maybe, I think I fucked it up, but anyways, you should subscribe.
Welcome everyone to another Omega Luke interview. I am very excited to bring to you my guest at this time. She's been making a name for herself all over the globe. It's Shazza Mckenzie. Shazza, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. Welcome. Thank you for having me. I don't know why I said welcome to you, but yes, hello. Well, thank you for having me. I'm good today.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for coming on anyway. I hope you've had a great weekend, a busy one I've had. And what have you been up to anyway this weekend? You've been training, wrestling. What's your schedule been like?
This weekend we had at Newcastle Pro Wrestling, Newcastle is a place in Australia as well, not to be confused.
Yeah.
We have Newcastle on the other side of the world. So we have a Newcastle Pro Wrestling. We had our first ever Invictus tournament, which was, the concept of that is that it was a trios tournament. So it started with 8 trios, and then the we did qualifying matches over the last few months, and then we had Final Four matches. But each team was a heavyweight, a middleweight, and a female. So it was just a really fun thing to do. But I got eliminated in not the first round, because we'd already passed into the Final Four.
Yeah.
But I got eliminated in the semi-finals then, I guess.
Yeah.
But for anyone that had only attended that night, it looked like I just lost.
That's a really cool concept, though.
Yeah, it was cool. So what happens is at the end, the tournament, they get these gauntlets.
Yeah.
And you basically, so each person gets a gauntlet, and whenever they want, they can throw down the gauntlet and get a shot at their title that they're representing, or
sort of like a cash in.
The one for like a Money in the Bank, but for 3 people, and if that makes sense.
I really like that concept, because I spoke to the guy who owns Warrior Wrestling, and he told me about a concept he come up for his champion. War of attrition match. So it was 4v4, and then the winner of that match then splits into 2. And they have a 2v2, and then the winner of that match, the winner, the 2 winners have a singles match, and that's how they decided their champion. And so I really like different concepts. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but it's not just we'll do a tournament that's just these people, or I don't know, whatever people do these days. Tournaments are very big these days, but it's usually the single people tournaments. The trios tournaments aren't as popular yet, but they're getting there.
Yeah, well, I'm going to speak to you about a trios tournament later on, because you've been part of one before, the Chikara King of Trios.
Yes.
Big fan of Chikara. And well, I'm very happy that you've come on and taken the time to join me today. Hopefully fans of yours can sort of get to know you a little bit more as people, and people who are less aware of you want to check out your stuff, and from our chat today, and just all around enjoy it anyway.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, obviously, as you can tell, listening, you are from Australia, where in the last sort of 3 to 4 years, it's been a bit of a hotbed area for wrestling talent. We've seen a lot of oceanic talent come through. What's your story getting into wrestling in Australia?
So I've been wrestling for 10 years now, so a long time. And so when I started wrestling in Australia, we were not anywhere near being well known by none of us were well known. None of us were. There was no hype about. There was probably no internet. There was internet. I'm not that old, but
just on the outback.
But I had a wrestling MySpace, so I am kind of old. I had a Shazza Mckenzie MySpace, so that just to give an idea of the different time of life it was back then.
Yeah.
But back then, the idea of in Australia, the idea of any of us, being signed by WWE or anything like that was just so you would just laugh at the person if they were yeah, I'm going to go get signed by WWE. We're yeah, okay, right, mate. No one knows what we're doing down here. We're so far away from the entire world. Nobody cares. And then Tennille did it, and we were all oh, we can. This is an option?
Yeah.
We can try? Oh, okay. And then suddenly we were all oh, we have a chance. So everyone just went and I think not that it was all Tennille, because before Tennille, Madison and Tennille herself and Kelly Skater and Madison Eagles were all going over to Shimmer and stuff already. And so few people had ventured out already, but it wasn't until Tennille got signed that people were okay, we have they might pay attention to something that we do down here.
Yeah.
We're not just these completely it's not just what nobody cares and nobody sees. And especially with the growing internet, the internet has helped so much.
Leaps and bounds.
Because it's very, very far to get to Australia from the US, from LA, which is the closest part that you can fly from. That's 13 hours to get from Sydney to LA, or 15 hours if you're going from LA to Sydney for some reason, because the wind or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like to get to the UK from Australia, like you can't do that in one flight. Like you have to have a stopover in like Dubai or something. So it ends up being like 30 something hours. So like it was, and flights were so much more expensive back then. So it was very hard for any of us to get noticed. But then I guess we all kind of were just like, we got to do what we got to do. And like a bunch of us started just taking all our life savings and going overseas and trying to make something of ourselves.
Yeah.
And people were just like, you guys are idiots. You're going to ruin your lives and you're not going to have real jobs and everything's going to go to shit. And we were like, yeah, probably. But YOLO.
Give it a chance. Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
Got to do what we got to do.
Yeah, because, you know, like you said, flights aren't cheap. You know, you're talking in British pounds is close to £1,000 to fly to Australia. And you're lucky to get a return ticket for that. So, you know, being an independent wrestler, probably in Australia, you probably had to work like another full-time job, because that's probably what people over here did 10 years ago as well. Like, independent wrestlers not having a full-time job is pretty unheard of unless you're one of like the 5 big names of British independent wrestling 10 years ago. But, you know, to have enough things so you want to do it and take a chance on yourself and risk it all, that's a big thing, because, you know, £1,000 for someone over here is a lot of money to take a chance on yourself. It's
a lot of money for anyone.
Yeah, just to be said like, oh, maybe next time, you know, it's a big risk.
Yeah, no, it's very scary. Everyone that just packed up their lives and moved to England. The good thing about England and why there's so many of us over in England is it's a lot easier for us to get into that country legally.
Yeah.
Not that I don't go into America illegally. Please don't like get me arrested or anything, but just the immigration is a lot nicer and a lot easier to just be like, hey, come live in our country. That's fine.
Yeah.
Whereas America's like, please don't come live in our country.
Yeah,
we don't want
especially
you.
now.
And I'm like, oh, please.
Yeah.
Please.
So growing up in Australia then, did you get to go to any live wrestling shows, or was it just like watching wrestling on TV which made you sort of fall in love with it? And what was the independent scene like when you were growing up and before you got into wrestling there?
Well, I started watching wrestling quite late. So I started watching when I was like 15, 16. So quite late, especially for a female. But the second I was like the second I watched wrestling and was like, this is everything that I'm about. Like, it was everything that I'm about. And I went to every local show that I could find, and there was 10 people in the crowd and I was one of them. And my parents used to take me because my friends wouldn't go with me. And then I didn't have any friends anymore because I just wanted to go to wrestling shows and I didn't want to go out and get drunk. So it was very weird. So my parents used to take me to wrestling shows, and they would drive me like 2 hours to these shows because nothing's ever anywhere near me.
No.
But they were very against me being a wrestler, so they wouldn't I didn't have a license, and the only school that I knew of in my like town, or in Sydney, it's not a town, it's quite a large city, but the only one that I knew of was over an hour's drive away.
Yeah. From
where I live. And my parents were like, they didn't want me to be a wrestler, so they were like, we're not going to drive you to be a wrestler. Like, we'll drive you to the show so you can watch it, but that's fine. But like, we don't want you to be a wrestler. Like, you're going to get over this. You're going to decide to be a computer technician or something silly. So something's going to change. So I didn't start training until I got my license and bought a car. So my fun story is that when I was 16, so after about a year of watching wrestling and being like, this is what I want to do, I quit my job. I didn't quit my job. I didn't have a job. I quit school and was like, I'm just going to get a job and save up lots of money and be a wrestler, and it's going to be great and going to be easy. And it was not easy because 16-year-olds are not good with money.
No.
So it took a little while to get the car and to get the license because I got distracted with other 16-year-old things. But we got there eventually.
Yeah, well, I'm 26. I'm still bad with money, so it's not all bad. I was looking through some of your history of matches online, and it's awesome to see how you've been having matches with women who we now consider to be some of the best on the indie scene right now, with yourself, So I noticed in like 2012 you had matches at Shimmer with like Mercedes Martinez, Rhea O'Reilly, and Veda Scott. How great is it? Like 7 years later, women's wrestling is at its highest point right now, and those names are still shining at the top with you still.
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned Rhea and Vader, because my first Shimmer trip, I think it was like this. It was Rhea's second trip, but the first trip she was only on Sparkle, and I think same with Vader. She had only been on Sparkle, or she'd had like one match at the taping beforehand, and then also Bailey, who it was her second Shimmer taping at the time, and so we were like the new kids there. And we just gravitated towards each other. So every now and then I remember because I still, like when Rhea's there and stuff, we still room together and stuff, because like we just gravitated to get together, and we were just like, we're the babies, we're all going to die. What's happening? Oh no, somebody save us. But like there was this taping, and I had my first main event for Shimmer, and she was in this match with Mickie James, and we both just got back to the hotel and we're just like, what the hell? Like, can you imagine us like 4 years ago when we were like scared to like look at people in the eye? Like, it was just crazy. So it's been really
like
cool.
James, yeah.
Yeah, like, and she's just like, I just wrestled Mickie James. Like, oh no, she was on Mickie James's team. She was just like, I just teamed with Mickie James. That just happened. And I was like, yeah, I just casually main evented Shimmer, just for no apparent reason. That just happened.
Yeah, because now it's amazing. We're seeing like yourself and those names still around at the top in these companies, and it's still great to see, because now we're at the highest point of women's wrestling's ever been right now. The spotlight's on women's wrestling massively. These companies are thriving right now, with people wanting to get involved, wanting to watch women's wrestling, and we're still seeing you guys there.
Yeah, well, it's like it gets harder. Like, it's not that it gets harder. It's just like, for example, where I train with PWA Pro Wrestling Australia at the Pro Wrestling Academy in Sydney, and it's the same school that Billy and Peyton came from, and so we all started around the same time. But for years at PWA, it was just me, Madison Eagles, Billy, and Peyton, and then like they left, and then I was kind of like, oh my god, I'm like, what am I doing with my life? And I had like this kind of like, do I either like give up now, or do I just go harder than I've ever gone before? And I chose to just go harder than I ever went before. And then suddenly this big boom in women's wrestling happened. And like now I think we have like 7 or 8 girls in training, and we have like a bunch of girls on shows and stuff, like, and it's crazy because for years it was just like, oh cool, just gonna wrestle Jessie McKay again because that's the only match anyone can ever think to do, because that's the only girl around to wrestle, so we'll just wrestle 500 times, which is like great, love wrestling her. But like now there's just so much more opportunity, and there's so many more people, and there's like so many more girls, and they're so hungry, and it makes me hungrier, and like it makes me more creative because I have all these new people and different circumstances and different stories that I can tell, and that just motivates me to keep going. And like that's why I've always loved going to America so much, because like in Australia there was a few of us, and it was really fun, and we worked really hard. But when I go to America, I have this whole like complete smorgasbord of women that I could never have even imagined, like that I can now wrestle, and it just opens so many more possibilities. And yeah, some of them aren't going to be great matches, like some of them you're going to be like, yeah, this is going to be great, and then it just doesn't work, like but every now, like then you get those really special matches where you're just like, oh my god, everything like clicked. I'm so glad that I'm here, like, and like I would never have experienced this if I hadn't traveled to do this.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you mentioned Billy and Peyton, and I seen your tweet about the chamber match last night, the tag team belts. What did you think of that? Because I seen, obviously, you wrote a very emotional tweet about it.
I was trying to like avoid spoilers because I was at work this morning because pay-per-views air at like 11 a.m. our time apparently. So I was at work, but I was like on my phone. I was like, don't look at your phone. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at your phone. But then I couldn't help myself, and I needed to, because I just needed to know. So I knew that they didn't win, but I was like, it's okay. I can still watch the match. And I thought it was really cool. Like, it was just like, it's such a cool thing because especially with them, and I know with Bayley and Sasha, like, I know how much they wanted these women's tag belts. Like, they have literally been talking about it for years and years and years. So I know how important this was. And seeing those girls get to be a part of history in that way is just, it was beautiful. Yeah. And they did some really fun stuff. And when Nia and Tamina threw them around by their hair, it was hilarious, and I loved it.
Definitely. I mean, the match itself was really good. And I think WWE did a really good job last night at Elimination Chamber, giving the fans sort of what they wanted without giving it all, and everyone came away like absolutely loving it. Like the Sasha and Bayley, I think anyone would have just been happy as long as it wasn't Nia and Tamina. Like I think that was really the case from looking at wrestling Twitter, and the end match as well with Kofi putting in a great show, and coming so close and putting Daniel Bryan to the limit. Like, people were just happy that Kofi Kingston was getting recognised, and we went out of the pay-per-view looking at Kofi Kingston for a good couple of minutes, getting cheered by the fans and no one else around. So I think WWE did a really good job last night. But I mentioned the new tag team belts because I want to ask for your opinion of something, being a women's wrestler right now, that I sort of mentioned the other day off the cuff, and I got quite a reaction from it, from Twitter and the podcast that I said it on. And so WWE sort of made these tag team belts sort of just appeared out of nowhere from everyone sort of wanting it and asking for it. A lot of like the wrestling community asking for it. And the whole women's revolution in WWE, and with Nia entering the men's rumble recently, and the mixed match challenge. So we know sort of like WWE are like sort of into intergender wrestling right now, and are sort of saying it's okay. Do you think that it would have made a bigger statement before these women's tag belts came along if a woman or a team with a women in, or a women's team, won the actual Raw or SmackDown tag team championships? Do you think that would have made like a bigger impact before they brought in these WWE women's tag belts?
I think we're still a long, long way away from WWE doing a proper intergender wrestling match.
Yeah.
I know we have like the mixed match challenge and stuff, but that's still very much the tag in and out, and like, so like the Nia Jax stuff was cool and it was perfect and it was great, but like I still feel like we're so like I in my opinion we probably will never see it in our like lifetime, if ever, because I just think it's something that they don't want to touch, and to that extent, which is I completely understand why they don't want to touch it. I understand that they have sponsors and they have these people in the world that aren't in wrestling that will not accept it and will like completely shun it no matter what.
Yeah.
So I get that. So I think it would have been cool, like as a former tag team champion with a guy myself, like I know that was really cool and that was really fun to do, but I understand why they went the route of the women having their own tag titles.
Yeah.
And they have so many teams and they have so many options of stories that they can build and do with that division, that it would seem silly to me to put them into the guy. I think the girls do so well on their own in WWE that they don't need to be put into the intergender stuff, because there is so many girls. They have like, I don't know, 90 girls contracted. That's probably an exaggeration, but they have a lot of girls. Like they have a full, like they have a male-sized roster of girls that they could do stuff with. So I don't think that they need to do the intergender stuff.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean,
especially because they don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, the tag team belts really were called for from not only the wrestlers but from people who wrestling fans, because we want to see these wrestlers do more stuff, and there's just we were just watching pointless tag matches on Raw or SmackDown with women's wrestlers. Why not give them a title and a storyline and make it work like that? So I definitely appreciate your opinions on that, but you sort of like changed it in my opinion from what you said there. I can completely understand, and made me sort of realize, probably the women's tag belts, as long as it took for us to get them, was probably definitely needed, because we have a huge roster, so much talent, and as fans we want to see them do more and be used in storylines a lot more, instead of just pointless tag matches, because we just need to get them on the card. So yeah, definitely.
Exactly, because now instead of having two people fighting over the women's belt, the SmackDown belt, two people fighting over the Raw belt, now you can have another 8 people in storylines fighting over these tag belts. Like, it just gives people more things to do, and more screen time, more wrestling, more matches, more purpose.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm a big promoter of another company that you work for that I mentioned earlier, and that's Chikara. You entered the King of Trios tournament. How did you find your time in the wonderful world of Chikara?
I like, so I'm like a huge, like, Chikara is my life. In 2012, the first time I went to America, I went to Shimmer. What I did was I quit my job, took all my life savings, and went and lived in Philadelphia for 2 months and trained at the Wrestle Factory.
Yeah.
And wanted, with the hope of wrestling on Chikara, and didn't get the chance to wrestle on Chikara at the time. I went to a bunch of Chikara shows and did a bunch of ring crew, and I got to watch it all live, and I was like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever. I got to do a Wrestling is Fun show, so that was close. It was like, I was like, oh, that's kind of same but different.
Yeah.
So when I legitimately, because I had emailed about the idea of like me and Madison and Jess being a tag team, because we're the 3 girls from Australia that have trained at the Wrestle Factory, and like, we're all friends, and we're all from Shimmer, and we're all like, we have so much in common. They're like legitimately my best friends. They were all in my bridal party and my wedding, like, and I'd emailed about doing it, and when I got the response back, it was like 4 a.m. and I was at the gym, and I was like on the cross trainer, and like my now husband was like next to me, and I just started crying, and he's just like, what the fuck are you like, what's going on? And I'm like showing him the email that says, oh yeah, that'd be lovely. Like, it wasn't like, yes, we want you. It was like, yeah, cool, whatever. Like, I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. This is happening. So like, yeah, going, like, being at Trios, being like, my first match at Chikara was the main event of King of Trios Night 1. Like, that's insane. Like, absolutely insane.
How did you find working with the genius Mike Quackenbush? Did you learn things that you wouldn't have learned anywhere else under him?
He's the smartest human so like, most people at the Pro Wrestling Academy PWA, not most people, but a lot of us have traveled to Chikara, to the Wrestle Factory, to learn from him. But we're so obsessed with him and his learnings that in October 2017, we flew him to Australia for a week just to train us. Like, he didn't wrestle. He literally came and just trained us for like 6 days straight. Felt really bad. We like got him straight off the plane, and we're like, yep, cool, you're straight to training. Like, he was dead by the end of it. But like, his knowledge is so invaluable. He's so smart. He's just like, he sees things so differently to anyone else.
Yeah.
And he has a way of explaining things that make you really think about things. And I feel like it opens my mind, and I start thinking of all these ideas that I wouldn't have previously have thought of, and I start looking at wrestling in different ways, and I just and then obviously he knows lots of really, really, really cool chain wrestling and flippy stuff.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
would like to learn.
He's down the Performance Center in NXT like every year, isn't he? And you see people like Alexa Bliss, who's one of the best women's wrestlers in WWE, posting like, "Oh, I learned so much today from Mike Quackenbush." It just seems like he's just a genius.
Yeah, no, he's amazing.
Yeah, and
any wrestler that's listening to this who hasn't read his book or listened to his podcast, go do that immediately. Yeah. It is phenomenal.
Yeah, and my favourite human being in the world of wrestling also works down in Chikara, and that is Bryce Remsburg. Big shout out to
what
Bryce.
A delightful man.
Yeah, I had him on the podcast. He was an absolute delight, and I absolutely loved him. He's so funny. He's absolutely brilliant. So next time you go down to Chikara, Shazza, if you can say a big hello to Bryce Remsburg for me, that would be great.
I will, no worries. I'll see him at Shimmer as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, forgot about that.
See him all. Yeah.
But you mentioned PWA. That's sort of like your local company who you sort of grew up with, I suppose, in the world of wrestling. You are the current champion at PWA. Am I correct in saying that? For nearly 2 years now.
Current women's champion, yes, at PWA.
So nearly 2 years with that belt.
Yeah, I'm on a mission because I've been told that I can't call myself a real champion until I hold the PWA heavyweight title. So I'm currently on a mission to prove a point, and I beat Tree Hugger Lucci at our last event, and I've got a match with a bigger opponent in Tyler Payne this Friday to keep proving my point until I get a number one contenders match, and then I'll get myself a title shot and hopefully be able to call myself a champion.
Double champion, unify the belts. That'll be the first time ever. That'll be good. Yeah. Are there any names in PWA we should be aware of for the future? Any big names coming through, do you reckon?
Oh my gosh. Everyone that trains at our school is phenomenal. There's our whole Maddie Warburg, who just took part in the New Japan Fale Dojo tryout yesterday and got a Young Lions spot at the Fale Dojo. He's phenomenal.
Wow,
he's got a big future ahead of him. We got Ricky South, who, if you are a big fan of Shikara, he's about to partake in the Young Lions Cup in March, in a couple of weeks. He's going over there and doing that. He's another phenomenal hard worker, is literally at training every day to a point where I have to be like, hey, Ricky, like, you don't have to be here every night. Like, you can go home and, I don't know, play a video game or something. Like, the wrestling's not going to disappear. It's going to be here tomorrow. No one's going to steal the ring if you're not here. And then we have the Velocities, so they're a really cool tag team of small flippy guys. So that's Jude London and Paris De Silva. You'll see Will Ospreay he tweets about Paris De Silva a fair bit because they did some really cool flippy stuff at a seminar, and he really wants to wrestle him. And he's really good. And then I guess I should probably say you people should check out my husband on Social Jordan, because in 5 weeks, instead of having a honeymoon, we're quitting our jobs and going to America to be wrestlers again, because that's what I do with my life.
Yeah.
So instead of having a proper honeymoon and going and sitting on a beach or doing all of that, for 3 months, we're going to go live in Philadelphia and be poor wrestlers and try to make a living over ourselves somehow, some way. And he's really good. You guys should check him out. Like, he's much better than me, but I'm just female, so I get more attention, and that's unfortunate. But it's facts. There's a lot more guys.
I was going to say there's a bigger pool of guys really than
exactly.
Girls,
it's easier to stand out in the smaller pool.
Yeah, but we mentioned obviously that you wrestled. Well, we mentioned WWE earlier, and you've actually had a couple of matches in NXT. I'm curious as to how these opportunities come about for you. Was it you sort of banging on the door saying you want an opportunity, or was it the other way round? Because you obviously recognised as a talent in women's wrestling on their books, because you've appeared in WWE in 2015 against Tenille obviously you mentioned earlier, and in 2018 against Kairi Sane.
Yes. So they both happened very different ways. My favorite story is my first one with the match with Tennille. I was down in Florida staying with Lexi Fife, and there was a couple of us all staying there. And we had planned to go to the taping the next day, and like we'd talked to Billy and Peyton and stuff about getting tickets and stuff, so they knew we were like coming or whatever. And then the day before, we were going to go out to Halloween Horror Nights, which is like basically Universal Studios turns into like haunted houses.
Yeah.
But this doesn't end till like 2 a.m. So it's like a very, very late night, and it was like over an hour drive from where we were. But so we had to leave at, I think it was like 3 o'clock. And so then at about 2 o'clock, Lexi called me into her bedroom and was like, cool, so they want you there at 1 p.m. tomorrow. What do you have to wear? And I was like, what? What do you mean? I just ate donuts for breakfast. What? And she was like, yep. So what have you got? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, I think I might have packed a black dress. I don't know what I've got. And she's like, do you have jewelry? I was like, no. And she's like opened up a drawer and stuff, like pulling out like accessories, and we tried to figure out how to make me look like a decent human for a day. And it was just, it was like this panic and stuff in that sense. But then she tells me this at like 2, and then at 3 we have to drive to Florida, to like Orlando for Halloween Horror Nights. And then I just have to go to Halloween Horror Nights and pretend to be completely cool with everything, and then get home at like 3 a.m. and then tan and pack my stuff and have like a mental breakdown, and then get up really early and put on all my makeup, and then drive all the way back to Orlando to get there in time for this, and not knowing what or where or what, like then say, hey, we want you for a match, or like they were just they want you there. I'm like, what do I bring? Like, am I doing drills? What, like, am I just there to say hello? Like, I don't know. But then I got there and I was talking to Tennille, and she was like, yeah, we're going to have a match. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. She's like, yeah, when they said like the list of who was at Lexi's, I was like, oh, can I have Shaz? Because I was Tennille's last match before she went to WWE. So she was like, oh, I thought it'd be a really cool story that we could tell, and
that's awesome.
Stuff. So yeah, because she just started the whole Evil Emma story, and she was like, so it'd be really cool if we show like I'm a different Emma now, so now I can beat you and stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, good point. Yeah, things like that. But yeah, so I owe it all completely to Tennille, and she is a godsend, and I would love to wrestle her a million times in the world. And I've luckily I have wrestled her a bunch, but I want to wrestle her more. I only wrestled her like once last year, and like she was down in Australia for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I was in America for the majority of it. But we did like one show on a random like Thursday night. This one show happened to work out that we were in the same area. I was like, cool, here's our match.
Yeah, she's still smashing it on the independent scene, really, isn't she?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like when she comes back from her, like, I mean, she's still doing stuff. She's still managing over at Ring of Honor, but like when she comes back and is in the ring again, she's going to be unstoppable. Like there is no, like she started training when she was like 12, like to keep going for as long as she's kept going, and push through all the injuries and all the setbacks and just keep going and going. And like, she's so resilient.
Yeah.
She like, I feel like there's another run in her. Like I definitely feel like in a year or 2 years, WWE's going to go, oh yeah, we made a mistake. Like,
yeah, which we've seen them do plenty of times.
Yeah, exactly. Cause she's such a talent.
Yeah. What about the second time when you faced Kairi Sane?
Second time was because it was the week after WrestleMania, so I was over open for WrestleMania weekend wrestling, and then the week after that we had Shimmer, and then I was like just looking at the like NXT side, and I was like, oh, I wonder if there's a show, and I saw that there was a show, and I was like, hey guys, gonna be in the area. Got anything happening? And they were like, you can come down and no promises. There's never any promises.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I was lucky enough that I got there and they were like, yep, so it's you and Carrie Sane tonight. And I was like, what?
Was she champion at that point, or was it sort of the build to when she became champion?
Yeah, it was the build to when she became... At the time, she was feuding with Lacey Evans.
That's right,
so, yeah. So, because, after...
built to her match with Shayna.
That built to, Yeah, exactly. So, because I remember because Lacey did a promo after the match. But, like... Yeah, that was me hustling. I was hustling that time.
Yeah,
not gonna lie.
you say that, and they say, we'll see if we have anything. No promises. They're probably thinking, I do. Like we've got our opponent. Like that's ideal.
Yeah. But... So it's just got to keep trying and keep making yourself valuable in some way. I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like you said, we spoke of Shimmer quite a few times. It's probably considered one of the biggest women's companies in the world, really, and definitely in the US, and you've been a huge part of that for a long time. You were even champion there last year for a while. Some of the best women's wrestlers in the world are there having incredible matches. It is places like Shimmer and Shine being slept on by wrestling fans craving these amazing women's matches, do you think, in your opinion?
I think if you're a fan of women's wrestling, there is no way you could even imagine sleeping on Shimmer. Yeah. Like the amount of the alumni that's the correct term. The alumni that have gone on and been part of this women's revolution, like you've got Paige, you've got Tenille, you've got Bailey, like you've got Natalia, you've got all these girls that everyone came through Shimmer. Yeah. Like it is part of of the women's wrestling revolution. I don't think without Dave Prazak and his like vision for women's wrestling back in, it was like 2005 or I think it was 2005 or 2007. Gosh, I'm bad with years. But without that vision, and giving girls that opportunity to wrestle and actually wrestle, I don't think this women's revolution would even be fathomable. I don't know. I'm trying to say big words. Fathomable. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, definitely. I completely agree. Like the shows that they seem to put on and the names that go through the doors there. People who crave women's wrestling and complaining about stuff that's happening at WWE for women's wrestling. They need to check these companies out, definitely.
Exactly.
Now, another company that I'm quite shocked to see that you haven't had on your resume is Stardom. Now, I'm guilty that I don't watch enough of it still. Is Stardom a goal for you going forward, or has there been opportunities turned down in the past there? Because in my eyes, you would seem like an awesome fit for a company like Stardom.
Stardom is my dream. It's my absolute dream. I don't think that I'm their dream, but that's okay. It's okay. I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. But yeah, I wrestling in Japan in general is that's sort of my goal.
Yeah.
I've gotten to wrestle a lot of the TJPW girls, and I would love to be a part of TJPW or DDT, that whole roster, because I just think it's so fun, and the characters are so completely big, they're bigger and larger than life, and they're all so different, and everyone has their thing, and I love that in wrestling when everyone has something so unique about them. So right now that's probably a bigger goal for me, but Stardom is obviously I would be there in a second if they said, hey, tomorrow be there. I would be like, okay, I'm here, sir. Please tell me what to do. I am ready to wrestle.
Definitely. Well, keep doing what you're doing. Keep knocking on the door, because I'm pretty sure a place like Stardom would love to have you eventually. I'm sure. Just keep working hard. I want to talk to you I want to ask you a few more questions before I let you go, but just maybe a few more quick fun ones. Maybe in a quick fire kind of way, because I don't want to keep you all night. So let's start off with, what's your favourite opponent that you've ever faced?
Madison Eagles.
Okay.
Easy.
What is your favorite ever match? Was it with the same opponent?
Yes.
Yeah. Where was that?
Like the favorite match that I've had.
Yeah.
There's me and Madison Eagles at House of Hardcore in Sydney in 2017. It's my favorite match just because we're on House of Hardcore, so we're on a show that had like Tommy Dreamer and Billy Gunn and like all these guys that didn't see women's wrestling probably as women's wrestling because that's not the generation that they grew up with, and to come back from that match and have them be impressed by what we did was just crazy. And plus there was like 1,200 people in the crowd, so that was pretty insane. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, they're, like you said, they're born of a generation of bra and panties matches, so to go out and steal the show with a decent women's match is got to be something. Yeah. What is your favourite company to work for?
PWA will always be
your
home. Yeah, if I could make a living and just wrestle at PWA every week with my best friends all the time, I would happily do that and never leave my little circle. But that's not realistic. But like that's my home. That's all my best friends. That's everyone that I train with every day. Like that's something that I've been a part of for 10 years and helped build from nothing. Not nothing, it wasn't nothing, but like the growth that I've seen in that company, and that I've been there for the hard times when there was 30 people to now when there's hundreds of people. Like it's like I will always want to be at PWA if I can.
Yeah. What about when you go to America? Is it Shimmer, do you think, or do you enjoy Chikara a lot? What's your sort of favorite when you go to America?
They're both my they're both my favorite for very different reasons. Like Shimmer is like that's women's wrestling, whereas like Shikara is something that's so completely different to anything else. Like they're both so unique and different.
Yeah.
Like they're not comparable. Like it's not like, I don't know, a regular wrestling company compared to another regular wrestling company.
Yeah.
It's like the mecca of women's wrestling, and then like the mecca of American lucha libre, comic book, fun story, read all the novels and play the games and you'll figure out the storyline.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when
they're very different.
My first exposure to Kara was like seeing a clip where someone was doing like magic and stuff, and I thought, what the hell is this? And then when I eventually like watched some of the shows, like I'm a big comic book fan, I'm a big superhero fan, I absolutely loved it. Like it was so up my alley.
Yeah.
And I never thought it would be, wrestling and superheroes, because I really do love like legitimate fighting in my wrestling. Like that's why I'm a big fan of the stuff that happens in Japan, the strong style and progress, where it it looks like it hurts, and there's incredible wrestlers who could be MMA like fighters. They genuinely like badasses. And then I'm watching Chikara and I'm thinking, this is so much fun. Like this is amazing. So. And
it is. And like when they do trios, they do on the second day, they do this thing that's the fan conclave, which is like just like there's games and like there's just lots of activities happening. You just play video games with the fans and the wrestlers, and then they play like music. Like it's just like I was like, this is wrestling heaven.
Yeah.
This is just like, if I was still just a fan or a kid, this would have been the greatest day of my life. Like,
and like
I just get to play games with my wrestlers.
Yeah, and the King of Trios, like they have a theme obviously every year. Like they've had Harry Potter, Pokemon. I mean, how great is that?
Yeah, it's insane. I love it.
Okay, then, what is your dream opponent to face that you haven't faced already?
Sarah Del Rey.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Yeah, like
I'm very surprised you haven't actually faced her, to be honest.
I know. She left Shimmer. I think it was like my second or third taping was her last.
Yeah.
So it was like a.
Okay.
Yeah. But like, obviously, if she ever wants to come back to the ring and be on shows again, I'm ready.
WWE contact you about joining a mixed match tag challenge. Of all the WWE roster, what male worker would you want to be your tag partner?
Oh, this is a tricky one.
Yeah,
oh,
don't
I
make
was not
these
ready
easy.
for this. Oh, I don't know. Gosh, there's so many. Can I?
Go on, name a couple.
don't
Throw
know.
some at us.
I want Drew Gulak.
Yeah, that's a great
because
shout.
He's amazing.
Chikara legend.
Yes. Gosh. Jonah Rock, now that he's there, because he would just kill everyone, and I would be like, that's happening. I'm just chilling. Gosh, I don't know. I'm trying to, I just watched the pay-per-view and my brain's going blank. Who wrestles? Everyone wrestles. Oh, gosh. John Cena. Yeah. I'll have John Cena as a tag partner.
Why not?
That seems pretty fun.
Yeah.
That seems pretty decent.
That'd
He
be
has a good winning streak.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
That'd be
Not
a great
recently,
partnership.
but generally.
He's got a new fun move
Pretty-
where he looks like he punches people and he doesn't. That's cool.
Yeah, and he has some hair. It's great.
What about then, if someone was to ask you, who was very uneducated in women's wrestling, to name a women's event that you may or may not have been part of, it's up to you, that would showcase all the fundamentals needed to create a women's wrestling fan for life, what show are you telling them to watch?
That is tricky. You are tricky. Gosh, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Probably Wrestle Queendom. That was such a huge thing in women's wrestling and such a big event and I think it had a little bit of something for everyone. So, yeah, that's probably a good place to start. And then, every single shimmer ever, and specifically all my matches, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, definitely. Okay, then what about if you weren't a wrestler? What would your dream job be?
Just to get paid to eat and go to the gym. That would be ideal.
Yeah.
To be a to be a mukbanger on YouTube.
What's that?
Okay, so a mukbanger or mukbanging, whatever.
Is that an Australian
It sounds
term?
horrible. No, it's not. It's a YouTube thing. I think it's much more popular in Japan, I think.
Right.
But there's a lot of American mukbangers and stuff. And it's basically the concept is that you just buy lots and lots and lots and lots of food. And then you sit down and you just have a single shot, a camera filming you. And then you just eat all your food and you talk to the camera. And the concept of it is that people that are lonely will sit down and watch your video and eat their dinner while you're eating your dinner. And it's like they're having a meal with someone. But you just eat stupid amounts of food as well while you're doing it.
That sounds amazing. I might have to do that. I'm going to start my own...
And people make lots of money.
Yeah, what is it? Mukbanging?
Mukbanging. Mukbanging.
Well, I'm going to have to get into this business because that sounds incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last question for you that I have. Last quick fire one. If both approached you right now offering you the same contract, who would you want to sign for, WWE or AEW?
Who? If it was the same money.
Yep, exactly the same contract.
Exact same contract. Probably AEW.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to be a part of history.
Yeah, definitely.
And
I was hoping
that
you'd
would
say
be
that as
guaranteed
well.
history.
Yeah.
Whereas, not that, WWE is obviously the dream.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be a history-making deal.
No, definitely. Because I think AEW is a once-in-a-lifetime thing that's ever going to happen. We're never going to have a company built on the massive fan base that these sort of 6 guys have had in the elite.
Yeah.
From just the rise of the internet, like we mentioned earlier, just a huge impact on wrestling. The rise of the internet creating such a buzz for the elite that it's got to the point where they've got someone who is willing to put money into them in the Khan family, who, by the way, is an incredibly rich man.
Yes.
and putting his trust in these guys to put in a great show. And so far, You know, people complained about the production value at the first show that they did, the first announcement, the second announcement. All the production values were up, and they just seem to be listening to the fans, doing everything right. They're scouring the globe looking for the best talent, if they keep saying. So I'm really excited for AEW, and I think it's incredible for wrestling.
I'm very excited. I think it's going to be so completely different to anything that we're currently have access to, and so like whether or like however it goes, I just think it's good. It's a good thing for the wrestling business. It's a good thing for wrestlers, and I'm really excited and really happy for everyone that has gotten to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be crazy. Like I can't wait for Double or Nothing to happen, and then like I just think it's going to be like balls out, like straightforward from there, and everyone's just going to be like, oh my god, what is happening in this world? And no one's going to know, and we're just going to be completely blown away, and there's just going to be so much content and wrestling, and I'm very excited.
Me too. I mean, the diversity as well of their roster. You know, we've got the transgender wrestler, we've got Sonny Kiss. They're really putting a spotlight and changing things, like changing all these things in wrestling, which I think is amazing as well.
Exactly, but they don't have a short blonde girl yet, so
that is very true. I think they're definitely
everyone needs one of them.
Yeah, do they have an Australian yet?
No, not to my knowledge. Well, so hey, wink,
exactly.
Wink, nudge, nudge. You're listening, right, Cody?
Yeah.
Cool.
He listens every week. He's told me.
Obviously.
Yeah. Do you know? I genuinely met Cody in December before this announcement was made, and he said to me, because I'd said, could you do a shout out for my podcast? And he was like, yeah, sure. So him and Brandy said, like, subscribe to Omega Luke and everything for me. It was wonderful. Like, amazing bloke to speak to. Absolutely incredible. And Conrad Thompson was sat behind him, and I just met Conrad. And he goes, hey, he pulled me over and he goes, hey, if there is a Starcast 2, I'm not saying there is, because if there is, why don't you go over to Conrad right now and go speak to him, because we need some more UK-based podcasts at Podcast Row. And I was like, yeah. And he went, no, I'm being serious. So I was like, yeah. And then my friend came through after, and then he goes, do you go on his podcast too? And he was like, yeah. He goes, does he talk about me? Like, is he nice about me? So he was like, yeah, we speak about you all the time. He was like, go tell him to go speak to Conrad. And I never did, but I fully regret it now, because there is a Starcast too.
Because now there is a Starcast too.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there. So
exactly.
You should have been there, and then we could have hung out.
Exactly.
Not really. I would have just been sitting there going, oh my god, why is no one buying my stuff? Oh, because there's real famous people here, and not just me.
I'd have just been staring at Taker. Like, how is that guy here? That's weird.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah. Did not expect that. One bit. Did not expect that.
No. Not at all.
So, incredible. Well, Shazza Mckenzie, this has been amazing. I've really thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute honour to speak to you and get to know you a little bit more. Where can people find you on the social media?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at Shazza_Mckenzie. Sometimes I tweet things that people get angry at, and I don't mean to. It's usually I just tweet at like 4 a.m. when I'm really tired and at the gym, and I just have thoughts, and then I'm like, send it, and then suddenly like Twitter is just at me, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I should not have. Yep, like it's not offensive stuff. It's just like thoughts that come into my head that apparently everyone's like, no, I disagree with you, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. But I'm fun to follow because of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm working on not doing that as much. I've only had one fight this year. Success. My Instagram is basically just gym selfies. Occasionally I'll post a wrestling poster or a wrestling action shot, or my pre-match photo. That's pretty regular content on there, but still follow it, like it. It gives me validation.
Yep.
And then I have a Facebook page, which nobody really follows, but like a couple of thousand people do. But like it's just content. But you can go follow that. I think it's like Shazza Mckenzie Pro Wrestler, because I couldn't just get /Shazza Mckenzie for some reason. Apparently someone stole my name. I don't know.
I always find though Facebook is a lot harder to promote for wrestling. Like I have a Facebook page and hardly, like you said, no one's on it compared to Twitter, where it's very easy to grow, and Instagram I don't use as much, but it is quite easy to grow, especially I suppose if you are a wrestler, because just posting photos of you wrestling or in your ring gear is going to help. I hear you also have some merchandise coming out, I believe. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. So it would have just finished when we started recording this. I had a pre-sale for my T-shirt, which ended about 40 minutes ago, or however long we've been on this podcast.
Typical.
So, but that happened.
Yeah. But when is that coming out in full sale?
I'm going to try and get it out in the next week or two. Just depends on printing and everything.
Yeah.
Like that. And then I've also got a couple of other designs in the works that I don't physically have yet, but they will all be coming out. I intend to have a USA tour exclusive one for when I get to America at the end of March. So that'll be one that I only sell at shows and only shows in America, unless I don't sell them all, and then I'll probably bring them back and then do some huge sale and try to get rid of them because I'll just be stuck with a bunch of shirts. But in theory, I will just be selling them in person at shows in America. So come prepared to give me money for those when I have them.
You mentioned these shows. Where can people find you for these shows? What live events do you have coming up? Do you have any of these dates and shows announced yet in America?
Yes, I do. So in America, I have the first weekend I get there, I've got March 29 is Rise, and then we've got Shimmer weekend, so that's the 30th and the 31st. And then we head to New York, and then on the Wednesday for Mania week, I've got Battle Club Pro. On Friday, announced I've got, I'm not announced for Shimmer, but I'm going to be there, guys. Sorry, spoiler. Sorry, Dave. I'm going to be at Shimmer. So I've got Shimmer, and then I think that's at 11 a.m. and then at 3:30 in the afternoon I have Black Label Pro, and then on the Saturday I have my brain's Nova Pro, and that's at midday, and so I'm just kind of all over WrestleMania weekend. There might be some more stuff. There might not be. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? That's what's announced, though. I mean, Shimmer's not announced, but guys, I'm gonna be there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We all know, NXT also do Access weekends as well. You've just got to let them know that you're in the area. You never know what may happen.
Just hey guys, I know every single professional wrestler in the entire world is in town this week. Yeah. But I also am. Yeah. So get on it.
I think that's the way you should go with it as well. That's how you should you should message them. Definitely.
I know you hired every single free agent that you wanted this year already, but I'm here.
Here I am.
And I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Definitely.
See you there.
Well,
you can't see it, but I'm pointing and winking while I'm doing that.
Yeah, at the WrestleMania sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I certainly look forward to seeing you a lot more this year. I can't wait to see what you have coming up. But thank you once again for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.